The film Super 8, written and directed by J.J. Abrams, opens in a steel factory, more specifically a safety sign within the factory. It looms above the workers, displaying the number of days without an accident. A worker rises into frame, takes down the current displayed number and replaces it with the number 1. The worker lowers back out of frame as the camera focuses in and hangs on the sign for a brief moment. The movie then cuts from this to a very different scene, a long shot of a boy sitting alone on a swing set, but there is no swinging, and he's wearing a suit. Juxtaposing these two images together, our mind immediately fills the gap and we realize what is going on. This boy just lost one of his parents to a factory accident. The swing set represents the idea of an innocence now lost. It's a beautifully constructed opening. Within the first 30 seconds of the film, we are introduced to an inciting incident, a character and his primary internal conflict, as well as a thematic idea, all without one word of dialogue being spoken. This is a great example of what it means to show in writing. Often referred to as the first rule of writing, showing is when you engage the audience's heart, mind, and imagination through specifics that imply, but do not directly state, your main point. If a writer has done their job well, we should be able to understand and extract the emotions, conflicts, growth, and themes without having it spelled out for us. Telling, on the other hand, is when you feed information to the audience. However, information and the basic facts of an event aren't usually engaging when it comes to storytelling. The audience wants to feel what it's like to be in the character's shoes, or your shoes if it's a personal story. For example, if you're writing a personal narrative and you simply say,
I was angry.
Well, the audience knows what anger is and can conjure a vague or blurry image of it. They've certainly seen anger from others and experienced it themselves, but everyone experiences anger differently, and the audience doesn't know how you react when you're angry, or how that's different from how anybody else might react in that situation. However, if you say something like,
My teeth tightened as my cheeks started to burn and my hand curled into a tight fist.
These images help imply anger through meaningful, specific details. See the difference? There are a lot of ways to show in writing, but we might begin by thinking about the building blocks of language itself. Every sentence is constructed word by word, and the choice of words that you use, known as the diction, ultimately lead to the larger picture of the world you're trying to create. So, on a sentence level, you could think about using colorful adjectives or energetic verbs to help ignite the reader's imagination. If you write something like,
Last time I visited my grandmother, she looked older.
That's just information. It doesn't create an image of what has changed with your grandmother that made her look older. On the other hand, if you have a sentence that says,
Her still fiery crimson eyes now sat above darkened circles.
This line gives us an image and implies a feeling. Both that she is getting older with the darkened circles, but the contrast of the fiery crimson eyes might also give a sense that it is merely the superficial aspects of her skin that is changing with age, but she is still the same person she's always been. Another example, if you write something like,
It always brought me comfort to sit underneath the willow tree in my backyard.
Again, that's more informational. On the other hand, if you have a sentence that says,
As I sat underneath the willow tree, it clothed me with its drooping vines.
The word clothed is a very interesting verb choice. We generally have associations with clothes. Often wearing them conveys a sense of comfort, safety, or stability. So just by using that one verb helps convey the idea of comfort without directly having to state it. See how powerful just one word can be? Here are a few general tips to help you show more in your writing that I hope you will find helpful. Work on igniting the 5 senses. We often think first about what we see, but also consider the other senses when forming your descriptions. What you feel to the touch, what you hear, what you smell, what you taste, if it applies. When you're describing people, think about their face, their disposition, their clothes, and their voices as starting points. Focus on atmospheric elements, but make sure that they're meaningful. The reader is going to assume that everything you decide to include in your story is somehow important to developing character, conflict, growth, or theme. So make sure that your focus is on details that help forward these key elements. Use dialogue instead of summing up a conversation. When you use dialogue, make sure it's a meaningful exchange that's important to developing character or the story. Also think about how someone talks. The particular way that someone talks, their cadence, their dialect, if they're an interrupter or other idiosyncrasies, can give a sense of who they are or their background. Okay, now that we've learned ways to show more effectively, there are a few traps worth noting that we can fall into you'll want to avoid. Number 1, abstractions. Try to avoid describing internal states through hazy language. For example, if you write something like,
I felt like I was being sucked into a void of empty darkness.
this might sound sort of colorful, but it doesn't show what is actually happening in reality. Instead, focus on concrete images, what a character is doing in a room, what they are experiencing on a physiological level. A good starting point to help you avoid dwelling in abstractions could be to imagine the character as an actor and you're the director. What are they doing physically, and where is the camera pointing? If your description cannot be imagined as a specific image, then you might be drifting into abstraction. Number 2, cartoonish language. Try to avoid descriptions that sound hyperbolic like,
My jaw dropped to the floor.
or,
My eyes popped out of my head.
again, these sound colorful, but unless you're actually writing a cartoon or identify as a cartoon character, these images not only break the genre you're working within, but are also not accurate to how you experienced an event. Finally, avoid cliches in your writing, which are overused expressions that, over time, have lost their meaning and novelty. Our first instincts in writing are to drift toward the familiar. These can be deceptive because phrases like,
I was caught like a deer in headlights.
or,
I felt like I had butterflies in my stomach.
they sound colorful and vivid, and they were, the first time someone said them. However, they have become so overused in society that they say nothing unique or specific at all at this point, and they'll just come off as lazy writing. Hopefully this video helps decipher the crucial difference between showing and telling, and these tips can help you improve your ability to connect with your audience through showing more effectively. The important thing to remember is that good writing establishes a relationship between writer and audience, where the writer does not spell everything out to the reader, and does not tell the audience what they should feel or think, but rather gives them the experience of being in a character or author's shoes.